Today's chat is brought to you by the support of all our Twitch subscribers. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through the Twitch platform, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a subscriber of the FFC and gaining access to some exclusive features over in the Discord server, please be sure to visit our Twitch account and click on the subscribe button. If you're an Amazon Prime member, remember that you do have a free subscription to Twitch every month that can be used for this. And for those of you who are already subscribers, thank you again for your generosity. You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the shadows, exploring the mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search, focus that fire. And so we come together. Join us. Join the discussion. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat. Welcome back for episode 38 of Extra Lore, recorded live on May 3rd, 2019, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Our topic for tonight's episode is going to be a look at Anthem. But first, let's run through a quick introduction of those on the show for tonight. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86. We also have our own master of social media, the one and only Green-Eyed Music Lover. Green, I hope you're doing well. How's the week treated you so far?
It has been a very bipolar week here in Colorado. On Monday, there was snow on the ground. Today, it was kind of hot enough where I had to turn on the AC. So it's like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We had a lot of overcast and clouds, and today I finally got to work on putting up the retaining wall. So if we're ending the week strong, it started out rough, but we're ending strong. Nice. And then rounding out the usual team, we have our good buddy, the lore content cop himself, Beard Grizzly. Beard, how are you doing? I know there's a bit of a cacophony of a thunderstrike going on behind you.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's just Thor having a good time, all right? Like, you can calm down over there. There's no reason for any of that.
I haven't seen you in a long time, my friend.
Is it Thor or is it Captain America at this point?
No, it's Thor.
It's Thor.
It's definitely Thor. He's you can tell, considering the heavy nature of it, considering that gut. What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Man.
I'm not going to say anything further than that before I get into trouble. But you know what?
I mean, technically, the hot zone of 72 hours is up, right? I mean, that is kind of the official...
Is that the official internet?
Isn't it 72? Isn't it 72 hours, or is it a week?
I mean,
I don't know.
I say a week to be safe.
Okay, fair enough. Whatever.
I mean, we're gonna
by the time this releases, we'll be good.
Anyway.
Yeah, we'll be fine
exactly.
outside the week.
We'll be.
Yep.
But yeah, no, definitely because of that, we'll just go with that notion. You guys might hear it in top 3 early on, but
yeah, I'm gonna try to knock it out as much as I can. But
yeah,
then the conversation is going to be really confusing afterwards if you do manage to knock it out.
Yeah, because it's just gonna be like, what in the heck was that? Trust me, it wasn't a bomb. It was a lightning strike that was probably like a good mile or less away from the house. But it was loud. It was loud.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well,
it was a thing.
As with most of our extra lore content, I don't think you had. Did you have a community question on this one?
No, not with this one.
Okay.
I really try not to do.
Yeah, I know you.
Community questions with the extra lores because they're such a broad topic that it would end up just being like a popularity thing, more than anything else.
I completely understand that one. So let's run through our quick intro notes or standard intro notes, and then we'll get right into it. In our last Extra Lore episode, we took a brief look at Devil May Cry. If you enjoy the show, please be sure to rate and, if you can, leave us a written review on iTunes or comment on the episodes on Podbean or whichever podcasting app you use to enjoy podcasts. Reviews are extremely helpful as they not only let us know what we can do better, but help continue to expand the FFC family, which allows more and more perspectives to be heard. To those of you who have already taken the time to leave us a review, thank you. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a gathering place where the intent is to offer a week-long, in-depth view of a particular subject from within game lore, with a special focus on the Destiny universe. With the Extra Lore series, we delve into a game series other than Destiny for a full month, giving the group a chance to get a feel for the other games that our community loves to play. As with normal chat topics, Extra Lore is decided by the community through a monthly poll. After the month's discussion has come to an end, we get together to stream a high-level summary of the chat for those who are unable to participate. If you're a fan of lore in all its various forms, be sure to also check out thelorenetwork.com, where you can find a wide variety of some amazing content that covers a number of different titles and mediums. This will also be the home for the Focus Fire Chat episode note archives and articles going forward. Extra Lore for May is going to be a discussion on the lore of Mortal Kombat, so be sure to jump into the Discord server and weigh in on that conversation. With all that out of the way, Green, where do you think the best place to start is when looking for a really basic understanding of Anthem?
I kind of want to start off, and we're just going to get this out of the way, EA and Anthem, and let's just get the politics talk out of the way, because I know that's going to be part of this episode a little bit. Feelings from you two who have not played the game, but have seen the community's reaction to the game from the initial "it's going to be a Destiny killer" hype that was happening to the betas that everybody got to play to the actual release of the game. How did you see the community reacting to it? I'm curious from that perspective, because I played the beta, I have the game, I played the game, so I know it from that side. But from an outside observer, I want to know what your guys' thoughts are.
I'll be real blunt. I don't care. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't mean that like as an attack at all. Like, I have so much free time, and I have decided to kind of double down, you know, especially with Destiny kind of getting more interesting for me again here with this past season. You know, I've gotten to the point where most of you probably know this about me at this point, but I don't really pay attention to a lot of social media. I kind of feel like gaming reviews and gaming news is, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like 90% clickbait, it feels like. So the term Destiny killer, quite honestly, I think I don't know. It's the same thing as like back when it was like, oh, this is going to be a Halo killer or whatever. I mean, it's a game. I mean, my kind of, I guess that's kind of my response is like, if it doesn't bring you pleasure to play, you know, like, I mean, I'll be honest, the game that's kind of distracting me from Destiny right now is not actually a first-person shooter game. It's Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. They just released it on Game Pass, and the remake of the Tomb Raider series is amazing. Like, hands down, it is one of the funnest games I've played in a really long time. And so I'll be honest, when I get a chance from, you know, running stuff in Destiny, I hop over there and try to chip away at the campaign on that. I'm a huge solo gameplay person, so, you know, having the big selling point of Anthem being like, we're going to be Destiny, or we're going to be, you know, whatever. The primary thing about Destiny, and we kind of talked about this with Top 3, the primary thing with Destiny was it was a social game. If you don't play with a community, you put yourself at a disadvantage. I'm okay playing Destiny solo. I know that going into, like, when I solo queue with Destiny, I understand that I am putting myself at a disadvantage, and I'm okay with that. I choose to partake because I love the world so much. I choose to partake in the world in that fashion. Anthem, I mean, and this is nothing against Anthem or the developers. The game, from what I've seen, it looks really cool. It sounds like it's got a really cool story. I'm hoping to kind of get that confirmed here. I mean, I know the people who have dug into it are actually really kind of impressed with it. You know, mechanics aside, which I'm sure we'll hear a little bit about that. Excuse me. Like, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's like it's another time sink, and I don't have the time to sink. So I'm just kind of like, I just don't have any interest in it. Like, again, I think it looks really cool, but I know I've gotten to a point in my life where I know myself well enough that if I start looking at another game like that, I'll get sucked in, regardless of mechanics and stuff. And then also, on top of all that, it's a third person. I'm not a fan of third person. Like, Gears of War is really the only third person shooter game that I have ever gotten to a point where I'm like, if a new Gears have come out, I'll probably play through the campaign, just simply because I like the story so much. The third person shooter, like, gameplay to me is just, it's very clunky, especially for my particular play style. And so, because I'm not a run and gunner, like I don't tend, we were kind of making fun of that earlier tonight. I tend to be the person who kind of sits back and takes precision shots. And so for me, a third person shooter kind of handicaps you. And so then when you're on top of that, you're handicapped because you're playing a community game solo queue, you know, it just starts kind of snowballing. And so, I mean, yeah, so that's a lot of words for something that I just professed that I don't care about. But I guess that's kind of a peeling back of why I take that approach. Yeah, I mean, I haven't even played the beta. I'll be honest. I got it. And I was like, I mean, it looks cool. It's really like the cutscenes that I have seen from it is just amazing. Like, I love the, yes, Pens, even with the bear, Tomb Raider is amazing. I'm sorry, I just saw chats making fun of me. But no, back to Anthem. Like, the Anthem, the aesthetics is, I mean, it's beautiful. The like I said, the snippet of the story that I've heard, it sounds really cool. It's very, very, I want to say supernatural, like shamanistic way. Just, again, this is from very limited knowledge, just simply because the basis around the concept of an anthem, of a song of life and everything. I kind of associate that with like the shamanistic concepts of, you know, natural medicine and that kind of concept of singing to the spirits and, you know, communing with the spirits in that way. I think that's really cool. I think that's an awesome concept. But then I get back to reality is just, I don't have the time. I just don't have time to invest in it. So I've kind of turned off, especially with games like Cyberpunk coming around the corner. We have rumors of Beyond Good and Evil 2. I mean, like, there's these games that I have been waiting for years to get a handle on. And it's like, and with Destiny kind of re-emerging, you know, in my interest as well, I just have to pick and choose. And sadly, Anthem just didn't make the cut. I mean, it's like Division. I just don't have any interest in it.
I come from the different side of things, I suppose, not just from the I don't have time for it, because at this point I really don't either. But it does come down to another piece of it, and that is looking at what BioWare has kind of done, or not necessarily BioWare, but also what EA has also done to the community as a whole, that seems to be trying to help the game along and to help it like flourish, and like all the goodwill and nature that has been presented with the title and who has been working on it and so on. And it's just I can't look at it and not think that it's, if you want to censor this, you can. That's just a big FU. The stuff that they have done to the player base as a whole, and releasing it in the nature that they did, is insulting. And I really do hope that they get something together to make it better than what it is at the moment, because it deserves it. It is not to say that the world is terrible or anything else, but I think that it promisingly deserves it. And I say that for people mostly because I know what I went through with Destiny, and what most of us have kind of gone through with Destiny, with how it was something that was really like tough to say that it was something that was good originally, that there were a lot of problems that kind of fit the bill with how Destiny was portrayed and started. So we've been there. Like that's the whole thing. We've been there. And when I see that people have issues with the general presentation or general story pieces or gameplay pieces of Anthem as a whole, I can't look at them and go, well, brother, let me tell you how you can get over these issues that you're feeling, because I've been there. And in addition, like, I end up sitting back and I think on, not even what had happened with me in Destiny, but also what happened with me and World of Warcraft. The idea of a WoW killer has been something that is old. It is tired. It is stupid. And by the end of the day, the only thing that has pretty well killed WoW has been World of Warcraft itself. Has been
I was about to say, it's been WoW. Like,
WoW is its own problem.
WoW is its own problem.
It's the same as any of them. Like, I would argue that. It's like... I'm going to double down with that, Beard, because I think that's also doing a disservice to the whole game industry as a whole. Yeah. Like, if you go into a situation saying your only goal is to kill, your competition, I mean...
I to be fair, I don't think any...
fair.
That the franchises
fair.
Are going with that in mind.
That is fair.
I'm going to counter that and say, yes, they did with Anthem. Because almost all of the marketing that they had was, we are basically going after Bungie in its entirety. Anything that they showcased was basically saying, this is what Bungie had done. We're going to show you how we can do it better. Oh, this is a map in Destiny. This is a map in Anthem. Most of the things... But the thing
is the game that doesn't have really any PvP aspects.
But
or
they didn't care about that. Like, that's the whole inkling in that respect.
Well, and to be fair to Beard, that is kind of one of the things they compared it to, was because they were like, yeah, PvP is not... We're not doing PvP because we saw how broken it was. I mean, I guess, yeah, I mean, Beard does have kind of a point on that one. Like, I do remember that conversation being... I don't know. I also do see a difference between producers and the devs who are working on it.
Correct.
Sure.
Because there's some really great story. The music's actually really good. I think the art was done very well.
I think the art.
I think the game...
my gosh, the art is amazing. The concept, of course, concept art's always. I think concept art's always amazing. But
not even just the concept art. Flying around in Anthem is gorgeous.
Is it? Okay.
It's really pretty just to fly around the world, because there's actually free play where you can just kind of go everywhere, and it's a really pretty, well developed, well rendered, and you don't have to, like, loading screens or anything like that. You can fly anywhere. And the draws, it's actually really well done. And I think the devs did a really good job. Like, the ones who are working on art, the ones who are working on, with the Frostbite engine itself.
Which was a complete and utter travesty in and of itself.
Right.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But I think a lot of the devs that were working on their thing, just like devs on a lot of other games, it is a labor of love, and they did a great job with what they had to work with. Writers, it just never was completed to the extent of the idea. They had a big idea. They only completed part of it, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could tell what portions of the game were worked on very well, or had like a decent amount of like engagement behind them in development. It was pretty obvious in that respect. But yeah, I could honestly carry on my feelings with the ideas or the politics behind the game probably all day. Because quite frankly, I think what happened with the guys with BioWare, and granted, some of the people at BioWare are just as much at fault for it. What had happened to them as a whole was a general travesty. And I kind of feel bad for any of those that are involved in the project that have a heart and have care for it, because I don't blame any of them. But there has to be... You cannot make a game that presents itself in that regard and then falls back on needing to fix bugs to this extent and then push back its new content nearly indefinitely and not have something go on with the studio. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
You've got something that's going on wrong at the top, and whether that's EA or BioWare, something needs fixing. So, to those that are just like the grunts that are working, I seriously give you all credit for what it is you did. I love what the game looks like. I love how it looks. I absolutely loved how the flying mechanics and everything fell in place. Like the general gameplay is fantastic. I think it's the same thing that I had said with Destiny 2. I think D2 had a fantastic base that it started with, and then it progressively kind of worked itself out and got better. But having that really stable base is what helped it, and then knowing where you were going to go is the important part of it. And for BioWare, just as much as what we had here with Destiny 2 and with Bungie, and then Anthem with BioWare, this is different for them. This is them creating like a persistent world. And granted, we've seen some things with like the Old Republic and whatnot that they had a persistent world MMO. Why they didn't develop further into that or figure out where they screwed up with that, because there were parts they definitely did, that would have been the easy thing for them to kind of like figure out. But obviously, of course, one game's development is not the same as another's. And that's where, you
get into studios and get into publishers and stuff like that. And it's a lot of disservice to the game developers themselves because of the schedules that they're being forced to keep to. Yeah.
Now, ultimately, I think it comes down to the players got screwed, the developers got screwed, and I really feel bad for anybody that kind of got like highly involved with it. And I know that there are people out there that absolutely enjoy the game. Props on you. But there are fundamental flaws with this title that you have to understand exist. And I am saying this as somebody, as a Destiny 2 player, that understood and understands there are fundamental flaws with the game that still need addressing. There is no problems in calling out those points. There is no problems in saying to the developer, this needs to be fixed. Stand up for the thing you care for, because it's exactly what we did with Destiny, and that's what led to Forsaken.
And moving on into the lore section of our episode.
Yeah, otherwise I'm going to keep going.
It's okay. I mean, it's a big part of what's happening with this game currently.
It is.
And I think it's an important thing to talk about because the gaming industry in general is having this weird issue that they're going through. So I'm glad we talked about it. I know it's not exactly what a lot of our listeners were necessarily coming in for the very first section of this. Maybe a timestamp would be prudent for those of you who may want to skip ahead to the actual lore section. That's fine. I'm sure Blue will have that kind of going for you. But to get into Anthem and the story of Anthem, Anthem has kind of the same problem that D1 did. D1 had a fantastic story that no one knew about. Anthem also has this problem.
At least it had a longer campaign.
Yeah,
Anthem at least had like that going for it in a lot of rights. Like the campaign's much longer than D1.
There's some really good twist, and you're immersed into it differently than in D1 because D1 it's a little bit different setup. But the basic world of Anthem, it is a wild area, a wild environment where there's jungle everywhere and there are a few settlement/cities that have coalesced where humanity stands because the wilderness has all these creatures and events and colossus and everything that are going to be out there that will eat your face or shock you to death or poison you or other things. So humanities are kind of squished into these little pockets. And the reason why Anthem is called Anthem is because of the concept of the Anthem of Creation, which Blue talked about earlier. And the Anthem is the source of pure creation itself. And it's the Shapers, which are group or entity or group of entities that used the Anthem to create the world. So Anthem is the energy / source of creation, and the Shapers are essentially the artist in some respects that molded the world and created it. The Anthem has existed since the beginning of time and permeates all aspects of its existence. The Anthem has been the subject of much debate over its origin, limits, and if humans should attempt to channel it. Some believe it is nothing more than story and myth, which this is all an excerpt from the game itself, from the Anthem of Creation card that you can get in-game. So the Anthem is a power source that you can actually tap into, and that multiple characters throughout the game do tap into, or at least can harmonize-ish with. Am I staying coherent for everyone so far?
Mm-hmm.
Students, are you okay?
I mean, I get it. I'm a warlock.
Yep.
Okay, good. Yay, the hunter gets it too. So there's other things in the game.
He's not just picking his nails.
I mean, he's playing something. So, I mean, he's at least here.
That's fair.
Right?
That's very rude of
So
you.
I mean, I'm a hunter.
It's also
too.
accurate,
I
but
just set
it's
my
also
controller
very
down.
rude.
Mm-hmm. It's okay. But going back to kind of the Anthem creation, I'm going to be jumping around a little bit, but throughout the world there are things called Shaper relics. And these are instruments that were left behind by the Shapers when they abandoned the world, because they created the world, the Shapers did, and then after the world was made, they left. And Shaper relics have the ability to modify natural fauna and flora, which is something that comes up a little bit later. They also have the ability to play with space and time, and some relics, when you use them, they will disappear when they're silenced. Some don't. Some reappear after years or hours. They're kind of these fluid, time-gatey type things. They're not time gates where you can go through, but they're these power sources that pop in and out of existence. Fun thing that some of the Shaper relics, their imagery, they don't all look the same, which is kind of nice. But there are things where you use lost echoes. You use echoes of Anthem to help silence them.
But
they
you
look
say
like speakers. It's kind of cool.
Is his mask broken?
There are...
Sorry, I had to.
So...
I'm
going to start sounding like the
grizzly
bear all of a sudden.
I'm going to bring him up.
I know. I mean, like, you take the little fabric off the front of your car speaker, or the little thing off the speaker, and the little wavy foam I don't even remember what they're made out of. It's been too long since I've taken that class, but it looks like the speaker body itself. I mean, it's really kind of cool because you can see the sound vibrations when it's actually running. It's, I don't know. I'm such a music geek that when I saw speakers in the game, I was like, I'm good. I'm good for a while. This will keep me entertained for a bit. But I mentioned how they can change fauna and flora. There are creatures that were formed at the dawn of creation called the Anzu that were kind of affected by the Shapers and everything else. Then there is a Shaper ruin that destroyed the city of Freemark, which is important to your character in the story. And it produced the Heart of Rage Cataclysm, which cataclysms are super important because it is essentially an unpredictable disturbance that was created when the Anthem creation overwhelms a Shaper instrument. So when the sound waves are turned up to 11, you get a cataclysm. So the one in Freemark, you see at the very opening of the game, your character is part of that. You see the Heart of Rage and everything going on. The cataclysms, they appear as an intense storm a lot of the times. While one cataclysm may create bizarre new wildlife, another may shake the ground or force rivers to flow backwards. The only certain thing about a cataclysm is that it cannot be predicted. So Heart of Rage is the one I talked about. It's the one that you see in the opening scenes. It's the one where you kind of have this breaking apart of the characters that you eventually kind of reconnect, at least with one of them. Later on, let's see here, going into, as far as world goes, like general history of where we're going to get into, because there's so many factions, there's locations, there's creatures, there's so many different things in the game because it's a full fleshed out world. But as far as like the history of the Cataclysm and the Anthem itself, there are people who are studying the Anthem. There are people who are trying to figure out how to utilize the Anthem. No one really has a good grasp on it. So, because it's the shaping of reality and the creation force, there's not going to be a good grasp on it. There are people who are going to try to do it, use it, and make it work for them, but it doesn't really turn out the way they want it to. So we don't have a ton of information on it itself. I'm hoping that we get more because I think that is the most fascinating part. So I'm going to move on to factions unless either of you have questions that I can possibly address with those first couple sections. Blue or Beard?
Not at the moment.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Following the basics.
We're going real basic with this one because there's still, I don't want to give any story spoilers. So we get into the factions that you'll see throughout the world. There are enemy factions. You have the Scars, you have the Dominion, you have Urgoth, you have Outlaws, and those are pretty much the main ones that you see. The Dominion are an expansionist military regime from Stralhelm that destroyed the city of Freemark when they attempted to control the Cenotaph, which was what created the Heart of Rage. So the Cenotaph is the Shaper relic that they were trying to get control of. When they activated it and tried to use it, it overwhelmed that Shaper relic with the Anthem and created the Heart of Rage, which is the major cataclysm that happens. There are some major characters within the Dominion that cause issues. Dr. Harkin, who is the one who led the charge to seize control of the Cenotaph, and the Monitor, which Monitors are an operative, they're rare, who is both a Lancer and a Cipher, and I'm going to get into that in a second. Monitors undergo special training to make them near omniscient secret police. The Dominion engage in numerous biological experiments inspired by their belief that they are meant to harness the Anthem of Creation's power. So they're going to try to use it as much as possible, which is why they're kind of our main enemy faction in some ways. Furies are among the most visible and destructive results, which Furies are one of the creatures that you sometimes come up against, and they're not fun at all. But the Monitors, I mentioned the Lancer and the Cipher. The Lancers are the ones who use the suits. So you see the image of the guy in the kind of the mech-ish suit. That is a Lancer. They're the ones who fly it. They're the pilots. The Cipher are they're kind of psychically connected to Anthem itself. They're sensitive to it, is what is said in the game. So they're the ones who can sense when something is truly wrong, and they can kind of feel where the Anthem is stronger and where it's not. There's a lot of story about Ciphers being trained beyond normal, and they were kind of enslaved because of their psychic ability. Not a fun story to go into, but I think we're going to touch on it a little bit when I get to Ciphers in general. But Lancers are the ones who pilot, Ciphers are the ones who help the Lancers. So they're kind of generally in pairs. You have pilot and Cipher. Cipher sit in a matrix-like chair and help them with it from afar. I mentioned the Urgos. Urgos are a type of creature that used to enslave humanity. They are kind of... The nearest thing I could think of is they remind me of the bullywogs from Borderlands. They're kind of a muscular ape-like creature. They're not exactly that, but that's what it reminds me of. And they were defeated by the Legion of Dawn, which is a important group of individuals. They're kind of the Iron Lords of Anthem, their version of it. And then we have outlaws, which outlaws are an unfortunate group of people. They are hardened, violent criminals who were cast out of society because they threaten public safety and security. So they're essentially kicked out of the wall. So once they're exiled and kicked out of the city, because remember, humanity's in these little pockets, they have to survive in the wild. And it's not an easy thing to do. And when they do that, there's a lot of bad things that can happen to them. They can get essentially really feral, I guess is the way to put it. Think of mob bosses, but feral like Rugrats. Weird comparison, but go with it. They have crime syndicates and stuff like that, and you end up actually working with a few outlaws in the game to further your own cause, but they are not generally savory types. The practice of kicking people out of the city and exiling them seems to be in debate a lot of the time. There's people who think that it causes more problems instead of handling it within the city. You send them out, you create more outlaws, you create a bigger problem outside of the city, which freelancers and the sentries have to go after and fix. Then we get into the Scars, which Scars are probably the most fascinating enemy race I think that they have. The Scars are they're a colonial swarm of insects that mimic the dominant life form in the area. So you can have Scars of different types. Scars first appeared from a cataclysm in 413 LV, which, remember how I said cataclysms can change things dramatically, whether it's like weather patterns or river directions and stuff like that. This is where Scars come from, is from a cataclysm. At the time, freelancers defeated a large, vicious creature none of them recognized. Later, unknown to freelancers, the Scars regroup and changed their mimicry to appear human. So literally, you are fighting replicators in some respects, or Siva in some respects.
Because I totally wanted Stargate in this.
Right? It's a little intense. They're bugs, though. So
that's totally the replicators.
Totally
replicators. They can just go
right?
take a long walk off the short pier.
Yep.
Right? So it's really scary to think about. What's even worse is there's something called the Ascari, because Scars are still hive mind based. Ascaris actually have a little bit more free will. They're sentient manifestations of a Scar swarm. Once a swarm reaches a critical mass through consumption, so once it gains enough power, it becomes capable of speech and intellect, and intelligent thought, and also gains unique thoughts and ambitions that are thought to lead Scar power struggles. So there's factions within the Scars, but most of the time the Scars are just very instinct-based. They come after you with weapons just like a human does. They look like humans when they come at you. It's just a little bit funky armor. But the Ascari actually have plans and whatnot and have gained sentient life because they've consumed enough. And it's a terrifying and fascinating group of enemies. So there's also, as far as enemies go, I'm not getting into any of the natural creatures. There's obviously the Colossus, which if you're going through the world and you run into one of them solo and you're under level,
just run
away. Just run away. Think Now I'm blanking on the anime.
Attack on Titan?
Attack on Titan.
Attack on Titan. Thank you.
You know, for Blue to even know that
Think
one.
of
Come
that.
on, Green. Come on.
I mean,
Hey now.
Boy,
you can't see it, but I'm just
that
shrugging.
was a dig at both of you. You see how good that one was?
Yeah, you're getting pretty good at this. The Colossus are kind of pains in the butts because a lot of them, they have fire attacks that are both area of effect seeking and just flat out annoying. They'll send out little, like, creature-esque things after you. They'll send out this homing missiles. They'll send out bursts of fire in all directions. They're a pain. You can take them out if you have a team or if you're significantly powered enough or have enough ability or patience. Patience is a virtue with these guys too. When cataclysms happen, a lot of times Colossus tend to appear or at least coalesce in the area. In the opening cutscene, you see Colossus show up and it becomes quite the problem. There's also various things like scorpions that'll show up. There's other like creatures that you have to fight up against that are not as prominent as far as a faction or a group, but they're there. Ally factions, though, when you're in the city, you'll get to see all these different ones, or at least interact with them. And there's a few different groups. There's the Arcanist, Corvus, Ciphers, Engineers, Freelancers, Regulators, and Sentinels. And a lot of these different factions you can gain reputation points with by doing different missions and different retrieval type things for them. Arcanists are your scientist researchers and the scholars who study the mysteries of the world. The main one that you deal with is the one that you got to, if you play the beta, is the one you got to see, which was Matthias. Matthias is kind of an interesting character who grew up on the streets, has to go through a lot of things to get through to where he's at. Then you have Corvus, which Corvus is a corporation type group that controls a lot of things within the world. They also are responsible for developing certain javelins, or a certain javelin compared to others. And your main contact with them is Tassin, which you meet fairly early on in the campaign. She is your liaison between Corvus, the Corvus Corporation, and yourself as a freelancer. Ciphers, we kind of talked about. They have the psychic connection and are sensitive to the Anthem of creation and are often paired with javelin pilots via amplifier. Fun fact, many are thought to be a little loose in the heads, according to Owen, who is your personal cipher throughout most of the game. Ciphers were initially used for covert purposes by Corvus, but through their own revolution, they were able to expand their rights and freedom to choose how they used their abilities. So Corvus was the one who, once they discovered that these people were sensitive to the Anthem, they really wanted them to develop their powers so Corvus could use them to acquire more information and power, because they were supposed to be spies, essentially. And they tend to sit in these amplifiers, which look like the chair from either Assassin's Creed or Matrix-esque. It kind of looks like, at least Animus, like Animus 1. It really is similar to that in its look. There are two characters that you deal with the ciphers are Owen and Faye. Faye is technically the one you meet first. She is in the original cutscene with the Heart of Rage, but she is not your cipher. Your cipher is Owen through most of the game, and Owen is this really annoying character. I kind of want to punch him half the time, but I also feel sorry for him. He's got a lot of self-esteem issues. He's just a little obnoxious guy. They both are really intelligent people, but they're also both very wishy-washy.
So they're dumbly intelligent?
They're like... I want to say they're like warlocks, but I'm going to get shot down for that.
I mean, in
being a
what
little loose in
way?
the head. Not gonna go in just the loose in the head thing. No, I think warlocks are more like your arcanas, to be honest. It's just I don't know how to continue this without getting into a Destiny fight, and I want to keep on Anthem as much as possible.
I'm not helping anything, am I?
It's, you're giving me somebody to bounce back and forth between instead of just reading all my notes, which is great. I don't mind that. It breaks it up a little bit. Getting back into the factions, though, we got the engineers. Engineers are exactly what they sound like. Skilled mechanics, artisans, architects, and smiths who build, maintain, and repair bastions, which is a city infrastructure. There are two main groups, the architects who design things and the mechanics who build them. Very straightforward. There's one engineer that you deal with primarily. She's the first person you really meet when you get into the city. I can't remember her name at the moment, unfortunately, though. Then we get into the freelancers themselves. Freelancers are independent lancers, which makes sense. They are freelancers, so they're the pilots of these little mech suits. Freelancers who choose to follow General Tarsus, which is an important character in the past, and the Path of Valor, which is another thing that General Tarsus created. They silence cataclysms and aid those in need beyond the safety of the walls, aka they are Robin Hood in some respects. Freelancers act without direct orders from any central organizations. I can't do Lancers because too many syllables. We're Lancers in suits. Yeah, it doesn't really
it doesn't
work.
We tried.
I tried.
We did what we could.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to call this Anthem the musical from now on.
I don't want to sing the whole thing.
All right. You're the musician, though.
Yeah, but so are you.
Shh. Nobody needs to hear that again.
You play saxophone? Now you know.
Oh.
Freelancers act without direct orders from any central organization. Though there is no official code, even though a lot of them follow the Path of Valor, the modern perception of freelancer values are attributed to Dalathes, the Freelancers 3. And freelancers are kind of like Robin Hood. Their popularity kind of wanes a little bit after the Heart of Rage and the Free Mark disaster. And their failure to silence the Heart of Rage, many people don't trust freelancers and now look to a different faction. They look to the Sentinels for protection. Your main freelancer contact within the game is one of the original people that was at Free Mark with you, who is Haluk, who runs a Colossus. Beyond that, freelancers, you'll have a few different interactions with them. Anybody you run into in the wild, all the people that you're doing all your missions with, they're all freelancers. They're just independent. They are your people who will go out and take contracts, your bounty hunters per se. Regulators, which is an interesting group of criminals. I mentioned the outlaws. Regulators are, I put them as ally factions. They're kind of allies, they're kind of not. You generally don't fight against them, but it is an organized criminal group that deals in smuggling, gambling, theft, extortion, and other illegal activity. While not ruthless as outlaws, the regulators are still dangerous and operate outside city or civil society while manipulating others for profit. The recent closings of Strider locks and Striders locks and downturns in the safety of roads have limited legal trade and made the regulators rich. So it mentions Striders. Striders are essentially, is it AT-ATs that have the 2 or the 4 feet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Striders are AT-ATs. They are giant 4-legged striders that go across the land that allow you to traverse through everything because there's a lot of dense jungle growth and rivers and mountains to go through, and there are roads that these guys will travel through. They've shut down a lot of them in-game because of the Heart of Rage and other Colossus and Cataclysms going on, but it was a means of travel that was safe for people who did not have javelins. But the main contact that you have with the regulators, going back to that, the group of organized crime syndicate, there's Princess Zim, who makes you eat the heart of a gross creature, and it is a very Indiana Jones moment when you have to do that to gain her trust, to gain also Halleck's trust back.
Kalima!
It's disgusting, and apparently it smells real bad, and it's just like, and you kind of pass out after eating it. It's just a really gross scene. I am very weak stomached. It's not a good thing. Me thinking about it right now is even making me a little bit like, oof. She's an interesting one, though.
I'm just over here like Kalima, that's all. Do you also run from a boulder shortly afterward?
Wait,
no, wrong movie.
Nope, you don't. You do, I think you get back into the Strider right after that and go back to the main town. There's one last group as far as allies go, and those are Sentinels. And Sentinels are kind of like the policing group. They're the ones who are employed by the Emperor, or they protect people in Anthem, which is the name of the entire world is Anthem. They protect them on behalf of the Emperor. They're peacekeepers. They wear javelins. A lot of them do. When they're on duty. You'll see them walking around the city. Sentinel and freelancer relations are typically not encouraged. The freelancer's lack of rule following leads to tense situations. So they view freelancers as kind of wild cards. Sentinels are your rule followers. The main connection you have with the Sentinels is Bryn, who gets really verklempt half the time and nervous about talking to you, even as a character. And she is unsure how to handle your newfound friendship / business partnership, because she basically employs you part of the time to do some of the things that she was kind of sort of supposed to do. And then her Commander Vul, does not approve of your guys' working relationship, but it has proven fruitful, apparently. So we get to the javelins themselves. There are technically 5 different javelins. 4 that you can play in game, at least the majority of the game. You have the Ranger, the Colossus, Storm, and Interceptor. 4 very different play styles for all of these. Ranger is your most user-friendly one. The one that's easiest to get used to. It's the one that I play primarily. It is your frontline fighter. And the quote in-game is commonly used for frontline fighting. This reliable javelin has well-rounded offense and defensive capabilities due to an even balance of armor and speed. The Ranger's propulsion pack can launch quick airstrikes on unsuspecting foes, as well as navigating challenging terrain during exploration. Rangers are Pharah from Overwatch.
Yeah, basically.
They have the same type of attack where you have a volley that you send out. Beyond that, it's just a mech suit. They're not super fast, they're not super slow. They're just kind of your good Soldier 76 or Pharah type character from Overwatch. The Colossus are your tank characters. They're heavily armored javelins that is a cornerstone of the human society, and it's kind of a successor to the Javelin of Dawn, which is the 5th kind of javelin that is out there. Colossus are the most user-friendly as far as within society. They're used for industrial work, deep sea diving, and heavy transport. They're slower than other models, but they can withstand a ton of punishment. And they're the ones who will have the giant shield and can push forward in masses of people. I don't like playing them. They're too slow for my play style. I like to move around a little bit more on the battlefield. You really have to be somebody who can make a stand in one spot and slowly, very slowly move forward, because you're not going anywhere fast with the Colossus. They can take a ton of damage, but you're not going to be moving very quick with these guys. The Storms. Storms are kind of your warlock characters. The Storm is the latest Javelin,
Kind of?
Yeah, they're the ripoff of the Warlocks.
They're basically Stormcallers with an ice element, which I really would like to have.
In Destiny, Bungie, please.
Yeah. Problem is, it doesn't necessarily fit the bill of what they're going for. Otherwise, I'd really like to have it anyway. Yeah, no, Storm's like the one thing that I've had a chance to play with, and I will say that their powers are amazing.
They are a lot of fun.
And the fact that they actually are like lightly linked up, I don't know if they were going for this, but like how a Void Warlock has this like connection, so to speak, to like the Hive, or is like mistaken so much for like Hive magics. The Storm being utilized with like the same technologies as the Dominion and being basically born from the Dominion, it just fascinates me with what they did with it. Obviously, I at least like the Storm.
Yeah.
They're great frames. They're amazing little javelins. I know they were
float.
very
all the time.
That's actually the thing that I love about them, because you can legitimately float around the entire arena, and it barely takes away most of your boost gauge. It's great. It is great. But now the fact that that the javelins are, I think they're actually one of the more newer ones, I believe, between them and the
Interceptor.
And the Interceptor. Yeah, both of them are actually considered very new.
Yep.
To what the freelancers have been able to use at this point.
And you were right. The Storm was created by Dominions. It's, I believe, also the Monitor uses a weird bastardized version of a Storm.
Yeah, the pieces that it kind of looked like, that's what I got the inkling of as well. It seemed like a very large combination between a Storm and maybe a Colossus or whatever the
Ranger
would use.
Yeah.
Similar, yeah. I would almost say more Colossus. I don't know. It has that larger.
It is
well, if you mean the small, yeah, the okay, yeah. Before I get into spoilers and all,
right?
No, then absolutely, I would say that.
And then the very last one. So Storm, you talked about how it has ice and able to float above combat. For its light armor, it's a little bit squishier, but don't the Storm, and this is one I haven't played that much, don't they have like a little shielding effect that they can do? Am I just still stuck on Borderlands? I think
the Ranger also has a Halo-esque shield effect that it can also place. The Storms have something that is similar to that. They often play as more of a support character. But then, yeah, they traditionally do not rely on shields. They rely more on, I'm going to say they can blink, they can hover, they can propel themselves through air in terms of jet mechanics a little bit better. They're the ones that traditionally will rely more on their powers than anything else, than they will on like their connections to defenses, I guess, as a whole. Like, they don't really... Storms haven't at least shown to me that they rely or think about defense too much. It's actually more like offensive wizards.
That's a good way to put it. They're very wizard-esque, not warlock-esque, but very wizard-esque. They have a few tricks that they can use really well. Interceptors are the last of the 4 primary javelins that you can use. They are created by Corvus, and they are a scout-type suit that are meant for exploration and diplomatic missions. They are fast as all get out, and make me sick when I play them. I cannot because they are too quick.
You and me both.
The Interceptor is known to be the most agile and acrobatic javelin, a lancer confined. Lightning fast, close-range attacks combined with specialized weaponry will thrill lancers who crave speed on the battlefield. Interceptors are essentially Tracer. They are Tracer / the fastest character you can think of as far as getting up in your face and punching you and slicing at you and stuff
They're
like
like
that.
Sonic.
No. Nothing is like that Sonic.
I didn't say that Sonic. I just said Sonic.
I'm really glad.
Why you gotta go to that Sonic right away, huh?
I mean, they're changing that Sonic, which is thank God.
Which is wonderful.
The internet did something right.
Yeah, it only took like a day to say that, no, we don't like this. Anyway, completely off topic again. But no, they absolutely are like Sonic. They gotta go fast.
Mm-hmm.
Green.
I mean, see how many references we can pack into this Anthem episode, because we've gotten quite a few in here so far.
Don't challenge me. Don't you do it. I will make it happen.
We have only a little bit left. I've got the Javelin of Dawn, the basic information on javelins, and then the locations. And then we are through the tutorial of Anthem, because I'm not going into any of the spoilers of any of the missions. I'm not going to go into too much of any of the characters because it'll spoil a lot of things. I'm just giving you the bare bones of, because this game has only been out 3 months, not even. It came out in February, the end of February, so it is still a very new game, and I do not want to spoil it. I know it's 2 months in, but there are people who still haven't played it. If you plan on playing it, you're going to get just your basic information here for it.
I mean, the only other thing, and I still do debate that it'll end up being some fair spoiler territory, is like the Legion of Dawn as well.
A little bit, yeah.
Granted, it's a lot of like the past stuff and like why you do what you do in Anthem, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that reading that information is like paramount, because that's where you get a lot of your interpretive material.
Yes.
Is from the Legion of Dawn information, like big time.
And we're going to kind of get into that a little bit right now, because the Legion of Dawn is the history, like you said, of javelins in general. Yeah.
And I have to be honest, super interesting.
Yeah.
I actually had a chance to read over a good majority of it. I didn't get like too in depth, like I started writing notes like I do for Destiny, but like I was reading over and I was like, this is kind of fascinating. Mm-hmm. Like I really like what they did here, and it's obvious they put in a lot of care for it. So that's why I think like knowing the background or the basis here is important. But yeah, whatever you want to dig into for the Legion, I wanted to stress, like, as somebody that's made it apparent that I think that Anthem's got some things it's got to work on. Mm-hmm. I think that's a pretty good start for like what it is that they could have with the game itself. I think it's great.
I do too, and actually I do want to get into it just a little bit. So the Legion of Dawn member who created and invented and built the very first javelin was Arden Vasa, and the information about that is mainly in that card called Arden Vasa. Javelins are among the most advanced technology humanity has access to. Because of the presence of Shaper artifacts, this allowed humans to fashion the exosuits even while the rest of their technology lagged behind. So when these javelins were first created, humanity was not very technologically advanced, but because they were able to utilize the essentially the powers of creation itself a little bit with the Shaper artifacts, they were able to create their first suits. And the very first type of javelin was called the Javelin of Dawn. One of these suits was given to every member of the Legion of Dawn, and the Javelin of Dawn served as the precursor to the Colossus. So they're they're a very large mech-type suit. Current-day javelins, now I'm going to dip away from the Legion story a little bit. Current-day javelins are constructed from various parts that have been cobbled together by freelancers or handcrafted by arcanists. The knowledge of how to build javelins has been passed down from generation to generation in a tradition spanning centuries. Javelins are still incredibly rare. There's not many of them out there, or they're just incredibly expensive to make because their pieces are not easy to make.
Yeah, where have I heard that before?
I don't know, Beard. Where?
Ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's okay. Every javelin is precious. And every loss of a javelin... Never mind. I'm just not going to keep going.
It still fits and it still works.
Mm-hmm.
I just made myself sad.
Goodness.
God.
So, there are 3 different groups that can use javelins in the game currently. Dominion and Sentinels and Freelancers. Dominion, remember, are one of the enemy factions. Sentinels are the police force that use them, and obviously freelancers like yourself use them as well. The Javelin of Dawn, like I said, was the very first type of javelin ever constructed as the precursor to the Colossus, designed by Arden Vasa. One was given to every member of the Legion of Dawn. This is all like recapping a little bit because all of this is really important to the story that you get into. One of them was piloted by General Helena Tarsus, which, if you remember early, General Tarsus was a character I mentioned. And armed with special shields, she used the Javelin of Dawn to free humanity from the slavery to the Urgoth. After she died, the Javelin of Dawn was hidden away in the Fortress of Dawn, which is historically, I know it's slightly spoilery, but it's also historically kind of legendary type stuff for the game. Your character does go after trying to get the Javelin of Dawn in the main story mission. We're not going any further past that information because there's some major things that happen there, and I get real mad at a certain somebody, and I don't like them anymore.
Did you ever, though?
No, that's very true. I really didn't like him to begin with. But
No.
it just made it even easier to dislike.
Right.
When I read that, Beard, I may have gone to Cole and screamed at her for like a good 20 minutes. Like, what? Why didn't you tell me?
I mean, you kind of had rights to.
You
I mean, that's where things get, I think, sort of iffy with the way that they sort of handled the
story.
The general ideas with the mainline story.
Yeah.
That's where, like, the lore of Anthem is incredibly fascinating to me. And
it's
like
important
how they
that part too.
Yeah. And like how they sort of culminated and made it work out. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed what they did with the lore. But as soon as I saw pieces from that main story, I was just like, oh, sure.
Right. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you do up until you get to that point in the story are basically side quest and get to know you type things.
Right.
Fascinating, some of them. Especially the thing with Matthias from the beta that you get to revisit a little bit later. I think that storyline is a little fascinating, but I like split personalities, I guess. Locations in Anthem. I mentioned Antium. A little bit of correction. Antium is not the name of the world. I messed up on that one. Antium is the name of a human city and kingdom and the de facto capital of the world. It's not the entire world, it's just the capital. Sentinels serve as the city's main defensive force, and it is ruled by Emperor Valus Del. Freemark. It is the destroyed city that you see in the opening section. Freemark is an ancient and prosperous state. It was the site of the Battle of Freemark and later the Heart of Rage Cataclysm. The city was known to be the second most populated city in Bastion after Anthem. Though one could contemplate the legendary sculpture, the Colossus of Tarsus, some of the early Legion architecture, and visit the colorful marketplaces and the Freelancer Wall. These are all kind of my notes. So there were lots of different things within Freemark that you could go and see. Lots of history, the Colossus of Tarsus, early Legion of Dawn architecture, and you could visit the marketplace and the Freelancer Wall. All of that's gone. Fort Tarsus. It is your primary city in the game. You spend a lot of time there. You get to know a lot of people there. It got its name from the Legion of Dawn leader, General Helena Tarsus. So remember the one who wore the Javelin of Dawn and led everybody with her shield and kind of pushed back the Urgoth? That is Fort Tarsus. That is kind of the location that you get to spend so much time in. Luckily, there's a running function. It's not as fast as I want it to be. Heliost. Heliost is a location in the world also called the Engineer City. Heliost is a human settlement. The gates of Heliost have been occupied by Scar sometime before the Heart of Rage occurred. So there's the various locations in game have their own issues. Heliost has Scar problems. The next one we're going to talk about has a different kind of problem. Strawhelm, or Stralheim, is a location in the world. It is the seat of power of the Dominion, located in a mountainous region located north of Fort Tarsus. So there is rumor right now that we get to go there at some point. It is not in-game currently, but hopefully we'll get to go there. Thus concludes my basic tutorial of the world of Anthem. Blue Beard. I don't know how much further I want to go with this one without getting into spoiler territory. What would you like to do? General,
do you want
feelings on the game?
Do you want to go into spoiler territory?
I really don't. If this game was a year old, yes, I would.
I kind of agree with Green to not go into too much spoilers. The reason is, in the instance and hope that BioWare EA can go ahead and shift things a little bit more to bring the best out of and what they were really looking to do with the title.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of people will otherwise jump into it. And I really think that they will enjoy themselves. I think that is at least to me, that's kind of like my philosophy on it at the moment. I don't know what y'all think, but
I think
that's my feeling.
Personal feelings about the game. I think the game is a lot of fun to play. I think there are parts of the game that are a little less easy to access than others. Personally, I'm still a fairly low-level character compared to some of my other clanmates who are quite a bit higher up. I still haven't gotten through all of the what are they called in game? Basically, the locations where you have to unlock the doors by doing a bunch of different tasks, and it's the Legion of Dawn quest. It's the main story quest. I have one gate to unlock, and I've just kind of got bored because basically you don't have any other missions to do in the game at the time. Your mission is to unlock all these gates, and you have to accomplish that by completing so many different tasks, whether it's getting combos with your grenade and your class ability, or so many multi-kills and stuff like that. I find that part really tedious, and that's why I haven't continued playing the game, frankly. The missions I enjoy. But doing the open world stuff to try to get into these, to unlock the rest of the story, I kind of gave up after trying for about 4 hours to do. Granted, I'm sure I could look up a tutorial to do it, but it just wasn't intuitive. Personally, that's my only problem with it. I do like going into the game and flying around and shooting things, but I haven't been able to move the story too much further forward. But, Beard, what's your kind of general feeling on it at this point?
I mean, I've already kind of given my 2 cents, I think, when all's said and done.
Flying was good.
Yeah, no, I think, like, that's what I've said, like, the base of the title is great, I think. I think they gotta work on things more like progression and so on to really grab the audience attention a little bit further. And there are several other, like, mechanic-based things that I can say, but if I keep it strictly story, I think that it too kind of suffers from what Destiny runs into now and again. The main story has some issues and flaws, but the lore behind it and whatnot is so interesting to me that I want to continue to, like, know what happens with it. It's another world that I can easily see myself get lost into if certain things get fixed up and worked on. But for now, like, the immersion, like, I've had immersion problems with Destiny for a long time as well, like, from, like, early days of D1 through Taken King. I would probably say there are points where I'm like, yeah, the veneer is worn off at this point, that I now am focusing more on what is going on with the title,
right,
and what's happening around me, and I just can't do this anymore and allow for this to continue in the manner that it does. That's sort of where I'm at with it, I think, at the moment. But I know that there are those that very much enjoy it and like it, and to all of you, good.
I do
absolutely good.
There is a structure there. It's not a complete base. I'm never going to say that Anthem is a complete, like, base of a game to build off of. There are some major things missing. There were some major things missing from the release date, even up to this date, even with the patches that we've had. Granted, the last patch that fixed you can finally see all the animations of loading into your mech. That is nice. But the thing that I think Anthem can do, and I really hope EA manages to pull this off, or BioWare manages to pull this off, is to be able to pull in different kinds of missions. A lot of the missions feel very repetitive. Granted, it is a shooter. It is you fly into the world, you find some bad guys, you shoot the bad guys, you have a few waves of the bad guys, then you have a bigger bad guy. There are a few puzzles in the game. I enjoyed the puzzles. I enjoyed that part of the game a lot. There are a few different areas you go into. I think that's really neat. But I think that Anthem lacks amount of diversity in what you're doing as far as how you interact with the game.
Also kind of lacks the diversity in terms of like how much there is in story right now.
Oh yeah, there's just not a whole lot there.
No, because I know that was the largest complaints from at least if we look at, like, what's publicly been said from both Mylan and
Bife.
From Bife, yeah. Goodness, why the heck couldn't I remember his name? Both of them have kind of said the same thing, that, like, they need to see more from it, that there really isn't any kind of staying power for it in the long run.
No.
And it's the reason why I haven't really dug into it all that much. There were a lot of people in the lead up that were like, well, why aren't you covering this title? Like, it would be great for you. And, you know, it's just a great title to springboard you into, like, a new era and whatnot for the channel, and like talking strictly business. I told them from the get-go, I have bad feelings about where this is going, because I knew the production series that was Destiny, and I knew what that got me when I trusted it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I ended up seeing that I was right, I didn't say anything. I didn't bring it up and whatnot. But when there is no, again, from strictly business standpoint here, I'm not saying that the game is god awful. I still say that the player base got screwed and whatnot, and I stand behind that entirely. But for a strictly business channel covering standpoint, to know that I was kind of on the right track, that I would have probably covered the game for about a week or so, and that would have been it.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a lot of time invested in something that would not have gotten me far at all. And that's just the shame of it. I want people to enjoy their titles and games that they play and pick up and such. I think that there very much is the potential to do so with this title. But yeah, they just largely need to add on to it, I think, at this point. I think that's where I'll try to leave my thoughts at this point. Like I said, I can easily carry on.
Oh, yeah.
How all of this went, and how it just feels like they should have just pushed it back another year, as terrible as that sounds.
Right. I don't think that's terrible at all. I think that if there's any lesson that we can take from, and granted, this is a game that got so much marketing help that helped push its launch. It's a lesson for consumers to be cautious about pre-ordering, and then for developers and publishers to, yes, you want to sell your product, but you don't want just that flash in the pan sell. You want to sell your product, and until consumers decide that they're not going to pre-order everything just because they see something shiny, I wish publishers would stop trying to trick the audience, because that's what it almost feels like at this point as far as politics goes.
Yeah.
I think that developers are being pushed very hard, and publishers are pushing things out very quickly. That being said, a different game that we just had a release kind of trailer or release day thing for, Borderlands 3, the devs that were talking about it said that they took their time to develop this game to make it to be what it wants. I'm still cautiously optimistic. I have not ordered the game. I am to the point now where I think I'm never going to pre-order ever again and wait until it comes out to just make them put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
But I am excited about that game, and I think that there are things that they have made as quality of life changes that are really good. I want more people to take that approach. Granted, I know that games like Borderlands, if Half-Life 3 decided to come out at some point, people would lose their shit. I get that. And you would probably pre-order it without having any proof of concept. But you have to remember that publishers are going to take advantage of that mindset as much as possible. And unfortunately, this game feels to me like that was the case. That's my little political spiel. Do not pre-order. That is my personal feelings on that one. If you love the game, great. I'm glad you love the game. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think there was a lot of things that got pushed out a little too soon. I really want to see more freelancer stories. I think the stories with all the different faction groups, with the Sentinels, with Bryn, and with Matthias, and Owen, and all the different groups are fascinating. But I want to know more freelancers, more than just Halleck. Halleck's story is interesting, but he's kind of curmudgeon-y.
Yeah.
But I want to know what happened to the rest of the freelancers. Why there are so few out there. And what are they doing? Like, who else is around? There are other freelancers, we know that, but we don't know really any of them. And that's where I want to see them take the story. I want to see them develop that out a little bit more. Because right now, it's all hearsay.
Yeah.
But, Blue, do we want to go to shout-outs?
Let's do it.
Okay. I'm going to make you two do shout-outs first, and I'll go last this time. Haha.
Beard, go for it.
I guess that's fair. Oh, okay. I guess I'm going first. The major shout out I have at the moment is just to anybody that's heading to Guardian Con, of course, in July. It's actually really not that far off. Like, we've got 2 months to go at this point. So watch it for your tickets, not just for the event, but of course for also flying out there if you haven't already. I know there are a lot more people than usual that are heading out there this time.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the community has also, again, kind of expanded, at least as far as like the inner... I don't want to say the inner circle, but the ones that you start to hear of more and more, or the familiar faces and such, there's starting to be more of them, which is, I think, really great. It just says something to the community as a whole that it's becoming more tight-knit. And then even then, there are more people that are joining it. It feels daily.
Yeah.
I keep hearing the doom and gloom of Destiny's dying, and I'm sure it's not as popular as it used to be, because no, it certainly hasn't been. But the general idea of more people playing, I know like 4 or 5 people that just started to play the game. Like, I don't know what else to tell you, but the game's not doing terribly. The game's also not meant to be like this, and I would say this even for talking about Anthem or Borderlands or anything like that as well, with them having their new one coming up. The game is not meant as this like extreme hardcore grind unless you want it to be. Like, there are elements that you can take from it to sit back and enjoy yourself. And I mean, I like to do the Forges every week, and I do some Gambit now and again. I do some stuff in Dreaming City. I do strikes. And that's about what I do for the week. And I'm sitting at 700 light at this point. I am max potential, and I am good to go.
Mm-hmm.
I have done every single quest that I can at this point, minus like a couple on PC. But just largely, I've just been taking my time, enjoying it, so on, and that's where I want my style to play to be. Those that I think that are kind of pounding on these games the way that they do are looking, and Monster Hunter World is another, I think, good one for this fair example too. They are titles that ask a lot of your investment in time, mm-hmm. but that time doesn't have to be given like right away. There are very few things that I can think of in a lot of those games, and granted, I guess Destiny as a whole has sort of added a few extra on with like the invitations and the queen visits and everything. But very few things like ask you to do them immediately, where you can take your time and just kind of enjoy them. That's why I continue to play Destiny as much as I do, I think. Why I'm kind of engrossed in the world, beyond just reading the lore and having 6 notebooks full of notes.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely devoid of the point. Anyway, to those in the community, I can't wait to see you over Guardian Con if you're going. To those that are new, old, whatever, I think it's great that we're all kind of like getting a little bit closer as a family, or just growing more and more together as time goes by. I think it's just I think it's awesome. But
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
Blue?
I'm gonna just give a big shout out. We got a lot of episodes coming at you guys for this next week. So really big appreciation for everyone who's sticking with the podcast and enjoying it. We have, I'm hoping to, by the time you're listening to this on the audio, I'm hoping that the interview, the Let's Chat with John Goff that we did last night, or the night before last, will be live. It's a long one, so I have been trying to make sure that it sounds good.
It was fun.
Hilarious, and I will also put a disclaimer on it that this is not for small children. John has a way with words. Let's just put it that way. And it was fun.
I would say that, like, not to like ruin it too much, but him and I got
it was hilarious when there's like I've been editing it for the last like day or so every evening where I can, and I've been messaging Beard and Green both, just like I've just been dying. I've never enjoyed editing something so much. It's been absolute blast editing it because it's just so funny. So I'm really looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts and opinions on it, to not beat that dead horse a little bit too much. But then on top of that, with the top 3, I've been really excited to see how well the top 3 has done. I'm hoping actually that we maybe can start doing Let's Chats a little bit more, because I've been having a lot of fun with them. And they're just really relaxed, and they kind of give us a way to get more into kind of like what we're doing with the top 3, kind of get to know us and just kind of hear our kind of relaxed things going on. So I'm going to try to.
We do have one scheduled.
Yeah,
hopefully that'll
we
happen
do. May is going to be a busy month for us. So we have another Let's Chat scheduled for the 16th, which will be, I'm hoping to have that available for everyone on their podcast feeds by the 21st, I'm thinking, just to give myself a little bit of buffer there. But I have a few plans for Let's Chats, and I need to run it by Green and Beard to hear their thoughts on it. But I'm really hoping that we can get that kind of off the ground a little bit more.
Sure.
But and just, again, just huge thank you to everybody for their support, both for the community as a whole and even in the chat as well. I really appreciate it. I haven't been these past few weeks, past few months, I haven't been available in the chat as much, just simply because of increase in real life, which is, that's always got a double-edged sword. It pays the bills, but it also means I don't have enough time to do what I really enjoy doing. And I just really appreciate those who have stuck with us, and who have continued to send continuous support and thoughts, and just their thoughts, their feedback on what we can do better. I can't iterate how much that helps and means to us as a team. So just a really big shout out to to everyone in the community. But yeah, Green, a huge shout out to Green, actually, for, if you've gotten this far, who did the major lifting on this episode. So,
really. Shizzler.
Well, yeah. And that's fair too. That's a fair point, Green. But you and Shizzler both, I think that needs to be stated as well. Big thank you for you guys taking the time and making sure that there's a comprehensive guide, I guess, to this world. World,
or at least an introduction to the world. It's not comprehensive by any stretch of the
imagination. But I think it does a good job of introducing you to, like, at least you walking into it, you kind of have a bit of familiarity with what's going on.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's mine.
That's kind of dovetailing into mine. I mentioned Shizzler. Shizzler is a FFC. He's one of our he's been around forever. Got the pleasure of meeting him last year at Guardians Con. Little aloha to him. He plays Anthem. He did a ton of screen caps for us, and all of the information tonight actually came directly from in-game. I was able to, because of his work and time that he put into capturing everything, I was able to read through all of the cards and pull out the information that you guys got tonight. So a huge shout out and thank you to him for just while he's playing, just being able to capture all of that, because I don't have nearly the amount of cards that he does, because a lot of the cards, just like in Destiny, you have little scannables type things. Granted, in Anthem, they're kind of shiny in the world when you're flying around. They're just like these little shiny, shimmery points.
Yeah.
They're kind of hard to miss when you're flying. They're not like a ghost, which are, in my opinion, still really hard to see if you're not looking for them. But they are also all over the place and not easily found, and there's no maps for them. So Shiz did a ton of work pulling all that together for us. My second shout out is actually nothing related to video games in general.
Oh!
And it goes to SpaceX.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
That just happened, right?
That just happened early tonight. I actually watched it. They had a live stream of it on YouTube of the SpaceX Heavy Falcon launch, which is the first launch that they've done with this heavy body boosters. Normally they do like a single booster. The Heavy Falcon had 3 boosters. Wow. And all 3 boosters came back and landed like SpaceX is known to do, which was really fascinating to watch, because not only the technology that is required to do that and the precision that is required to do that, but we're such a consumable society where all of the old shuttles, all of the heavy shuttles that got us to the moon were literally just throwaway shuttles. Once they were used up, you could never use the boosters again. And it's impressive to me, and a huge advancement in our space technology to be able to reuse boosters, because not only does it eventually cut down on cost in the long run, but it sustains the space program even longer, which is one of my favorite. I love NASA. I love the space program. I love the fact that we can go into outer space and put things out there that help not only our technology, but also just the development and our understanding of the universe. So anything related to that is important to me. And the stuff that SpaceX is doing now is just a really cool and fun and sustainable thing that I think should continue. I think that it is important that we continue to go to space, and SpaceX is making it possible. So thank you, Elon Musk. Shout out to you, sir.
Yeah, you're never going to hear any complaints from me about SpaceX.
I'll agree with SpaceX.
I know you don't like Elon Musk.
It's okay, to be clear, it's not that I don't like him. I mean, he's a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but I mean, which genius isn't? But I mean, there's just some of the things I don't know. Yeah.
I understand there are politics and things, but the fact that the man has
I mean, don't get me wrong. So a couple of our friends are actually engineers on that. So yeah, I mean, like don't get me wrong. I have the utmost respect for what he has done professionally, academically. Like it's amazing.
I'm sure personally he's probably not the best person.
It's just some of the quirks.
SpaceX
some of the quirks that he has. I'm like, really, dude? Okay.
I mean, to each their own. And those people who worked on SpaceX are geniuses in my book, and I hope they keep doing what they're doing.
And they're keeping alive a program that. Yeah. Needless to say, you want to talk about politics? Let's not get started on that one.
Please don't. Please don't make me do that.
Anyway, end of the episode. Turn it over. No, there's no side B to this one. Lou, do you want to wrap us up though? Since you were.
I guess I am technically the host on this one. It feels like Green is just extending the top 3 this week. But yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, anyways, we'll see you guys next week. Next week we are going to be talking about, I believe, dust, not the stuff that our planets are made of, but the lore book itself. which has been...
Is there really a difference?
It depends on...
We'll get into that
It depends
next
on how
week.
you want to talk about the red box that it comes in.
But I want to talk about it now.
We've been waiting for a long time to talk about this one. So yeah, we're all... I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that we're all really excited about this conversation. Be sure to weigh in on the poll this weekend. I apologize for it being late. I completely forgot to put it up last night while I was editing the podcast with John. So yeah, take that how you will. Place blame wherever you feel is appropriate. Other than that, we'll see you guys next week. Hope you guys are having a great week, and we'll chat with you later.
Bye.
With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/focusedfirechat. Links to all our episode archives can also be found at www.focusedfirechat.com. Please be sure to email us at focusedfirechat@gmail.com with any comments or questions for our team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. Also, be sure to check out all the amazing work being featured over on thelorenetwork.com. So until next time, focus your fire, and may your light shine bright.